this video, we will be talking about chemical and physical changes. But before we do, I want to review chemical and physical properties. A physical property is a characteristic of a substance that you can observe or measure without changing the identity of a substance. Examples of physical properties are things like color, odor, state of matter, hardness, ability to conduct electricity, length, mass, weight, temperature, luster, which means shininess, malleability, which means the ability to pound it into shapes, ductility, which means the ability to pull it into wires, viscosity, magnetism, and many more. A chemical property is a characteristic of a substance that you can only observe by changing the identity of a substance by performing a chemical reaction. You can't just observe it. Examples are flammability, toxicity, ability to rust or tarnish, ability to participate in a chemical reaction, and many others. Properties of matter are very useful if you want to determine what a particular substance is, or distinguish between two different substances. Sometimes you need to use several properties to do this. For example, say I want to know if a particular object, like this pot, is made of stainless steel or aluminum. I can use properties of matter to help me sort this out. This table shows that although both substances are silver-colored and they're shiny, they conduct electricity differently. Aluminum is a good conductor of electricity, and steel is a bad conductor of electricity. Steel has a higher density and a higher weight, and aluminum has a lower melting point. And there are other differences too. In short, properties of matter can help us determine the identity of a substance that an object is made of. Now let's talk about chemical and physical changes. As you probably are aware, matter can change forms. There are two main types of changes that can happen to matter: physical changes and chemical changes. Let's talk about physical changes first. In a physical change, the identity of the substance does not change. The shape may change, and the state of matter may change, but the substance is still the same substance that it was before. The molecules that make up the substance have not changed. Examples of physical changes include crushing a can. The can is still made of metal. Melting an ice cube. Boiling water. Breaking a glass, shredding paper, chopping wood, and many other things. We're changing the shape of these things, but the can is still a can. The ice cube and the boiling water are still water. The glass is still glass, even if it's broken. The paper is still paper, and the wood is still wood, even though it has been chopped up. Let's look more closely at physical changes on the particle level. This is a particle model of a phase change. It is a solid going to a gas. That would be sublimation. You can see that the particles themselves don't change, just their organization. Here's an example of mixing. You see we have two different substances. We have the green substance and we have the red and blue substance. If you take a look at the box all the way to the right, you'll see that the substances themselves have not changed. The green substance is the same, and the red and blue substance looks exactly the same. It's just that the substances have all been mixed together. Here's an example of the opposite. We are separating a mixture. The molecules themselves have not changed. And here's one more example of breaking things into smaller pieces. The particles are the same, regardless of whether they're stuck together in one piece or broken and divided into two pieces. In a chemical change, the identity of the substance changes. One substance with a certain set of properties turns into another substance with a different set of properties. Examples include burning, cooking, baking, rusting, rotting, ripening of fruit, frying an egg, chemical reactions, digesting food, leaves changing color in the fall, photosynthesis in plants, and many other things. You know that a chemical change has occurred if something changes into something else with completely different properties. Here are some examples of what you might see on the particle level. Notice that the substance that is made during the change, we call this the product, is different from the substance or substances at the beginning of the change. We call these reactants. The green molecules on the left have reacted with the red atoms, and they have formed these new compounds with 2 green atoms and 1 red atom. In this example, we have the opposite going on, where we have these compounds over here on the left with 2 pink and 1 blue, and these decompose into a substance made of purple particles and a substance made of blue particles. Here is another example of a chemical change. We can see that there are compounds on the left and particles, most likely atoms of an element, on the right-hand side. In summary, physical properties are characteristics of a substance that you can observe or measure without changing the identity of the substance. Chemical properties of a substance are characteristics that you can only observe by changing the identity of a substance during a chemical reaction. Matter can change forms. In physical changes, the identity of the substance does not change. In chemical changes, the identity of the substance changes during the change.